Part IV of The Man That Corrupted Hadleyburg, by Mark Twain. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Leonard Wilson. At home the Richardses had to endure congratulations and compliments until midnight. Then they were left to themselves. They looked a little sad, and they sat silent and thinking. Finally Mary sighed and said, "Do you think we ought to blame Edward, much to blame?" And her eyes wandered to the accusing triplet of big bank notes lying on the table, where the congratulators had been gloating over them and reverently fingering them. Edward did not answer at once. Then he brought out a sigh and said hesitatingly, We couldn't help it, Mary. It was ordered. All things are." Mary glanced up and looked at him steadily, but he didn't return the look. Presently she said, "I thought congratulations and praises always tasted good, but it seems to be now. Edward." "Well?" "Are you going to stay in the bank?" "No." "Resign?" "In the morning, by note." "It does seem best." Richards bowed his head in his hands and muttered, "Before I was not afraid to let oceans of people's money pour through my hands. But, Mary, I'm so tired, so tired." "We will go to bed." At 9 in the morning the stranger called for the sack and took it to the hotel in the cab. At 10 Harkness had a talk with him privately. The stranger asked for and got 5 checks on the Metropolitan Bank, drawn to bearer, 4 for $1,500 each, and 1 for $34,000. He put one of the former in his pocketbook, and the remainder, representing $38,500, he put in an envelope, and with these he added a note which he wrote after Harkness was gone. At 11 he called at the Richards house and knocked. Mrs. Richards peeped through the shutters, then went and received the envelope, and the stranger disappeared without a word. She came back flushed and a little unsteady on her legs, and gasped out, "I'm sure I recognized him. Last night it seemed to me that maybe I had seen him somewhere before." "He's the man that brought the sack here?" "I am almost sure of it." "Then he is the ostensible Stevenson, too, and sold every important citizen in this town with his bogus secret. Now if he has sent checks instead of money, we are sold too, after we thought we had escaped. I was beginning to feel fairly comfortable once more after my night's rest, but the look of that envelope makes me sick. It isn't fat enough. $8,500 in even the largest bank notes makes more bulk than that." "Edward, why do you object to checks?" "Checks signed by Stevenson? I'm resigned to take the $8,500 if it could come in bank notes. For it does seem that it was so ordered, Mary. But I've never had much courage, and I've not the pluck to try to market a check signed with that disastrous name. It would be a trap. That man tried to catch me. We escaped somehow or other, and now he's trying a new way. If it is checks. Oh, Edward, it is too bad." And she held up the checks and began to cry. "Put them in the fire, quick. We mustn't be tempted. It is a trick to make the world laugh at us along with the rest. And give 'em to me, since you can't do it." He snatched them and tried to hold his grip till he could get to the stove, but he was human, he was a cashier, and he stopped a moment to make sure of the signature. Then he came near to fainting. "Fan me, Mary, fan me! They are the same as gold." "Oh, how lovely, Edward! Why?" "Signed by Harkness. What can the mystery of that be, Mary?" "Edward, do you think—" "Look here, look at this. 15, 15, 15, 34. $38,500. Mary, the sack isn't worth $12, and Harkness apparently has paid about par for it." "And does it all come to us, do you think, instead of the 10,000? "Why, it looks like it, and the checks are made to bearer, too." "Is that good, Edward? What is it for?" "A hint to collect them at some distant bank, I reckon. Perhaps Harkness doesn't want the matter known. What is that, a note?" "Yes, it was with the checks." It was in the Stevenson handwriting, but there was no signature. It said, "I am a disappointed man. Your honesty is beyond the reach of temptation. I had a different idea about it, but I wronged you in that, and I beg pardon, and do it sincerely. I honor you, and that is sincere too. This town is not worthy to kiss the hem of your garment. Dear sir, I made a square bet with myself that there were 19 debauchable men in your self-righteous community. I have lost. Take the whole pot. You are entitled to it." Richards drew a deep sigh and said, "It seems written with fire, it burns so. Mary, I'm miserable again." "I too. Ah, dear, I wish—" "To think, Mary, he believes in me." "Oh, don't, Edward. I can't bear it." "If those beautiful words were deserved, Mary, and God knows I believed I deserved them once, I think I could give the $40,000 for them, and I would put that paper away as representing more than gold and jewels, and keep it always. But now we could not live in the shadow of its accusing presence, Mary." He put it in the fire. A messenger arrived and delivered an envelope. Richards took from it a note and read it. It was from Burgess. "You saved me in a difficult time. I saved you last night. It was at cost of a lie, but I made the sacrifice freely and out of a grateful heart. None in this village knows so well as I know how brave and good and noble you are. At bottom you cannot respect me, knowing as you do of that matter of which I am accused, and by the general voice condemned. But I beg that you will at least believe that I am a grateful man. It will help me to bear my burden. Signed, Burgess." Saved once more, and on such terms! He put the note in the fire. I wish I were dead, Mary. I wish I were out of it all. Oh, these are bitter, bitter days, Edward. The stabs, through their very generosity, are so deep, and they come so fast." 3 days before the election, each of 2,000 voters suddenly found himself in possession of a prized memento, one of the renowned bogus double eagles. Around one of its faces was stamped these words: "The remark I made to the poor stranger was—" Around the other face was stamped these: "Go and reform. Signed, Pinkerton." Thus the entire remaining refuse of the renowned joke was emptied upon a single head, and with calamitous effect. It revived the recent vast laugh, and concentrated it upon Pinkerton, and Harkness's election was a walk-over. Within 24 hours after the Richardses had received their checks, their consciences were quieting down, discouraged. The old couple were learning to reconcile themselves to the sin which they had committed, but they were to learn now that a sin takes on new and real terrors when there seems a chance that it is going to be found out. This gives it a fresh and most substantial and important aspect. At church the morning sermon was of the usual pattern. It was the same old things said in the same old way. They had heard them 1,000 times, and found them innocuous, next to meaningless, and easy to sleep under.